Welcome to Kim and Angela Talk. Kim is a biodynamic craniosacral therapist, PSYCH-K facilitator, curious human, forever student, and a loving mum. Angela is a Reiki master, PSYCH-K facilitator, metaphysical nerd, compulsive learner, and childless cat lady. Come along for the ride as they explore the mysteries of the universe and their own lives, all while enjoying a good laugh together.
Hi, I'm Angela.
And I'm Kim.
And together we're Kim and Angela Talk. Hi, Kim.
Hi, Angela. Hi, audience.
Hi, audience. How is everyone?
Hopefully everybody's good.
Hopefully. It's not like they can really answer us in real time.
They can always comment.
They could comment, though. You can't comment. That's how we transcend time and space through the interwebs.
Mm-hmm.
Although I was going to say, like, with energy and Reiki and stuff, but the interwebs is energy.
That is true.
Yeah.
A bit of a mind blow.
I know, right? Maybe that's why it's so effective to do this work at a distance.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Well, no,
we don't need the interwebs for that kind of energy to do this work at a distance. But it is kind of funny though if you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody I was recently talking to, she was like, "How can you do this over the phone?" You know, from because she was in California, Southern California. And she's like, "How can you do this work or Reiki over the phone?" And I was like, "Well, not really over the phone."
Mm-hmm.
I didn't say that, but it was like, you know, it's like it's not like it's going through the phone lines. It's all about the intention of going to you, connecting to you. How we go into surrogation for people with PSYCH-K and emotion code, body code stuff.
Yeah.
And with Reiki, you don't go into surrogation for somebody, but you do connect your energy to theirs during the process. So anyway.
Definitely. It's how that whole entanglement quantum physics thing works, right? So
Yeah, sort of a long-winded way to say, yes, we're so distanced from the audience, but we're also all together right here, right now.
We are all connected.
We want to look at it that way. Why not?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So what are we talking about today?
Well, the theme that came up for us today when we were checking for themes is the earth.
Nice. Hey, I know that place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we might live there. We might live there. So the message basically, or the theme, at least part-time, exactly, is all to do with, you know, how comforting the earth energy itself can be to us, and how important it is to ground yourself, especially given everything going on in the world right now. I think it's important to be grounded and have appreciation for Mother Earth and bring positive vibes to her and connect with her comforting groundedness.
Oh yeah, totally. As we record this, it's a dark moon on Memorial Day weekend, the Sunday of Memorial Day weekend, which is a big camping holiday weekend in the States. I believe the first big camping weekend in Canada is the weekend before. Yeah. So
finally get into good weather and kind of more predictable weather. So
yeah. So really appropriate too that it's coming up at this time, because it's when so many people get to go out into nature and connect, or hopefully they're getting out into the nature part, not just like the parts of camping that is where you're parked under a bunch of trees with a bunch of other cars. That's
right. Yeah, I was gonna say in a tent and on the ground, good grounding, good connection and stuff. Yeah, but lots of people do it. But hopefully walking, maybe going in the water, although it's a bit cold for water these days. But anyway, a nice walk in the woods, at least connected near the trees, even if they're they're surrounded by nature. So that's a good thing.
Yeah. In Japan, they do something called forest bathing. You know, it's basically, and people do it here too. I think they call it different things. There's like the Church of the Wild, where it's all about going out into the woods and being connected to nature and using that as your spiritual, religious kind of experience. I don't think they really put under religion, but your spiritual experience, but kind of like doing it as a sort of a guided container for that. but really just going out into the woods and connecting to the woods is like so beautiful, so profound. Because actually, that really just kind of leads me right directly into my message today. Because my message today was from my Medicine Heart Oracle, right here by Alana Farchild, which comes up actually quite a lot in the podcast, I've noticed. I'll do a review of that deck one day. This is my card, The Sacred Law of the Northwest.
Oh, beautiful.
Which is
koala bears up at the top.
I know they're so super cute, but of course, we don't actually have koala bears here in this part of the Northwest, but this is like the medicine wheel, Northwest. So the specific message from this card for me was the body's innate capacity to discharge excess energy through physical connection with the natural world.
I would say that's dead on for the theme. Right? Just a little bit of grounding. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things that I do is I go for walks in the woods, and there's different paths. We've got a lot of parks around here, which is nice. And some are you're just in the woods. And I live close to Lake Washington. So some of the places you can go, you can walk down to the water. And that's one of the things I really like to do is walk down to the water, really get connected to the lake, get connected to the trees, just having the energy, like kind of feel the energy of the ocean, or not the ocean in this case, but the lakes and the trees, and like really I found it so very soothing and very much a necessary part of my life, which is why one of the reasons I'm really grateful to live in this area, because we can do that. We can go walking in woods when in an urban setting, basically. And sometimes I feel a very strong draw to go to the ocean, which is a bit more of a trek for us here. We can go to bodies of water, but to go to the ocean is about 3-hour drive. Depending on how you go. And so that is another kind of energy, natural energy, that is just so profound and so wonderful to connect to. And I say, when I talk about this, I understand that some people might find it kind of odd to think about that, but it's really one of the most natural things you can do, be in the natural world.
Yeah.
All you this really is about kind of opening your mind to that, opening up your senses to the natural world. I think a lot of people go, and I see this often when I'm taking walks, obviously people walk their dogs in the parks, they go on walks with friends, and so I do often see people walking in the woods, and it still seems like they're still very much wrapped up in their own world and not really doing the connecting like on a conscious level. And that's not to say nothing is happening. They're still having the energy exchange happening with the trees. They're still having that magnetic field of the nature of trees, of all of that stuff still affecting them. But there's definitely a difference between doing it in a conscious way and doing it kind of like sleepwalking almost through the woods. You could look at it like that. So I feel like whenever you have a moment to be outside and consciously connecting to any of the life around you, not human life specifically. And you can actually do this even if you work or live somewhere where you don't have access to actual parks. You can do it by like whatever vegetation is around you, whatever animals you can spy, like even if they're just insects, you can, or if you're just walking around and you're seeing a dandelion pushing up through a sidewalk, that's a part of the natural world to connect to, and is also one of the kind of signs of like the tenacity of the natural world, and just how resilient life is, so there's ways to look at that, even if you don't get to go into the woods
Right.
much,
Right. Yeah.
or if your natural world is like, maybe if it's a park, I mean, you're cured, like, where they go and they mow the lawn all the time and use Roundup or whatever horrible stuff on weeds and but there's still going to be bushes there. There's still going to be trees. There's still life there for you to
Mhm.
connect to. You can still put your bare feet on the ground and do the grounding, get the energy of the earth up through your feet.
Mhm.
So being able to do that and doing it consciously definitely adds another dimension to the experience, as opposed to walking around not thinking so much about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, agree. Well, it's kind of that old saying, isn't it? It's where, no, how the heck did they say it now? Because I was going to say awareness of the energy. So being aware of where you are, paying
Mm.
attention to it. But it's kind of where your focus goes, your energy flows too. So that was kind of what I was trying to get to. So yeah, so focusing on the trees, focusing on the ground, focusing
Mm.
on even just how the sensation on your feet. It's funny when you're talking about the ocean. Um, Growing up, beach vacations were the thing that my family did. And you just always had that beautiful sensation being away on vacation. Everybody got more relaxed and being in the sunshine and walking along the beach and the ocean and so on. And, for most of my entire life, I always thought, well, it's because, you kind of leave the problems of home, or like at the time it would have been school and homework and all that kind of stuff. And then you just have a break from that. But as I've gotten older, I realized that, just walking along the beach with the energy of the ocean and the different ions and stuff, the exchange that goes on between your feet, that's really what the key thing is, not so much. And also being in the sun, the energy of the sun, we tend to be, inside a lot of the times, or inside a work building, or inside wherever it is we are. And so vacation, you kind of get that outside air, the sunshine, and that combination with the energy of the grounding on the sand and the different ions of the water,
Yeah.
that they do beautiful things for our body, for our skin, for our mental thoughts. Just, it's the whole package. So there's definitely, Mother Earth is there with all these wonderful gifts. So as you said, even taking advantage of the small things around, even if you are in a city, even I'm just going to go back to another video that we did to do at the Sacred Forest deck, just to tie that in with this as well, that even imagining it, if you can't do it, and getting, focusing and bringing that energy in, grounding down into Mother Earth, even if you're, sitting in your house, but just having the intention that that's what you're doing can also be extremely beneficial for just grounding yourself.
And
Yeah.
it's so healing. And what I liked about my message is like how I was saying, how the excess energy. So, because sometimes, that's how stress can build up in us, as like excess energy.
Mm.
Just like, you're having trouble letting go of your day, having trouble letting go of thoughts or something that maybe happened a few days ago. Just being going able to go out and be amongst trees, even if it's just a one tree in a park, or if many trees in more of a natural setting, being able to go out and just like let that stuff go and let it be cleansed and purified by the energy of the trees around you and the earth energy coming up. It's just so magnificent and so relaxing in a way that, I don't know, I feel like few other things are
Mm-hmm.
give you that sort of sense of connection.
Mm-hmm.
And I think really the key to it is being conscious of it and opening yourself up to those energies and really feeling them. So I was out on a walk in the woods with someone. This was like a few years ago. And we were just talking about feeling just the energy of trees. So, like when you put your hand on a tree,
Mm-hmm.
if you take a moment to really pay attention, you feel
Mm-hmm.
the tingling, the energy. in your palm, like the life flowing beneath your hands.
Definitely.
And I was talking to them and I was saying how I had been sitting down by the trail and I had put my hand out to touch a stump, a tree stump, as I was getting up. And where there was no life, yes, I mean, it still had, it's still organic and whatever, but there was no like life to this tree stump, the way that you think about it. And just the difference of touching that to touching a living tree is amazing. And it doesn't take any special abilities to sense this stuff. All you have to do is be open to it and open your awareness to it and just take a moment of silence. And anybody listening who's like kind of listening to me and thinking I've never experienced that, just give yourself permission to experience it and give yourself the time and go out and try this, and you will see what the big difference is and how, touching, like, say, a fence post that was once living and then touching a living tree after that, see what the difference is. And that will sell you on all of this.
Yeah.
And then just because, like, then when you are out amongst living trees, because their energy is like a human aura, how our aura goes out beyond, our physical body. The trees have their own auras, and we walking through that, it's almost like it's almost like taking your car through the automatic car wash, but it's like that for your aura, just walking through the trees. I love it. So this was
nice.
Yeah, this is just a big reminder. And it's funny too, because I was just thinking before I pull this card, oh, I really need to make my way down to the water. I really need to do this. And I have it on my calendar to do it tomorrow morning, actually.
There you go.
I was like, last day of the dark moon, I need to go and cleanse some energy in the woods. So it's on my calendar, and that's the card that I picked. So
it's all pointing in.
Yes, listen to that urge, Angela. Although if I could, I totally would drive to the ocean. Because that's the energy I really need right now. Just a quick, but I don't know if it's worth driving right now, driving to the ocean for 15 minutes to run in and out of the water.
Yeah. Oh, goodness gracious. Yeah, it's a bit of a trek.
Especially how cold it is. So,
right.
Like you were saying.
But yeah, it's still a little bit chilly.
I know. One day I'll make it to the ocean again.
Yes.
I really need to do that more often.
Yeah, no, it definitely, it brings inspiration, and it definitely clears the head.
Yeah, for sure. But lakes are good too. So
yeah, they are. Water is lovely.
Water is water.
Yeah.
There's just a different that's the other thing that's really interesting, is like the different energies you get from lakes and rivers and oceans and stuff. And then when you can start to discern the different energies, and you're like, okay, you're in that zone.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's good stuff. Awesome. Well, should we segue into my message related to, I'm just going to try and tie this in. My message today, talking about the dark moon, was interesting, coming out of a deck that I really, really love, which is
nice.
See that? And so the card that came out for me, again, I love, look at the other side. That's the other side of the cards.
Yeah.
These cards are so.
That's a cool deck. I keep thinking I might have to buy that deck.
Yeah. So that's the message there.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So
considering some of the other topics of conversations we've had recently.
I know. So defense mechanisms soothe uncomfortable situations or thoughts. So going through to get the message, it was just kind of a whole bunch of little things all put together. So I'm going to go through, see if I can put it all together in a nice little neat nutshell. So talking about the first part of the message, with there's no judgment, which I think is important to put down, because we all have mechanisms of defense based on early learning and, things that we need to do when stuff comes up to either, shut stuff down instead of reacting, or not expressing the emotions that are uncomfortable and kind of just stuffing them away. But that can eventually, for trying to live your best life, if you keep trying to stuff things down and things become more habitual, they can actually kind of work contrary to you actually, expanding and living your best life, because you're really too conscious or even unconscious of things that you keep stuffing down or that feel too uncomfortable that you don't want to address. And pushing away emotions or reactions, again, like I said, can have a detrimental effect in that you then may develop coping mechanisms of distraction. So it could be addictions of some sort in every variety, from video games to
the fun kind. Oh wait, video games are a fun distraction. My favorite distractions were video games and weed.
So this exactly. So, and then that can interfere with potentially where you might want to go and expand. So one of the things that came up in the message is, and it's funny because the audience message is going to tie into this as well. Green is a big theme. Again, the grounding in Mother Earth and outside and what have you. And so in this particular message too was a great big hug of healing, green, unconditional love and supportive boundaries, and knowing that love and joy and wisdom are constantly dancing around you. And so in this message, it was a case of bringing the walls down of those defense mechanisms, but in such a way, obviously, that, depending on what it is, then there's a case of, I'm going to do a little plug for methods like the emotion code, body code, PSYCH-K, or craniosacral, to do it more gently and to unravel those emotions that may have been pushed down, or in cases, as we've kind of discussed before, when you notice yourself having a very kind of explosive reaction to something that maybe in the moment didn't necessarily necessitate such a big reaction, but then upon further examination that there were a lot of things past history wise that might be the things that are creating those reactions. And then so focusing on that and kind of investigating and taking it apart bit by bit and then diffusing it and then healing the different emotions that might be behind that reaction that are bringing that about.
It's so funny that that's also part of the message, because part of the message for this card, I mean, not the specific message for me, but when I was looking more at the card, it was talking about how the koala eats the eucalyptus. It's their primary source of food, and there's toxic stuff in there, and that's why they sleep so much, and da da da. And so koala medicine encourages the slow and steady processing of difficult, complex, and toxic experiences, so that you can thoroughly digest the experiences and the challenges, and then you can gain the most benefit of those experiences. Like learn the things that you really need to know, like if you do it consciously, slowly, steadily, and then you get to release the stuff that doesn't serve you, and then keep the lessons and the experiences that you need for your soul growth. So that is so funny.
That's exactly there you go. And see, it's green again. We got the green as well for that one. Well, and then the fun part of that whole thing is that kind of once you go through that process, right, and then you're able to respond to difficult situations in a gentler and kinder way, then help expand your world and grow you into your potential of where you can be, where things won't cause such reactions, and you'll be able to listen to other people who might be in a place that maybe you used to be in, and then you're able to give guidance as a result because you can see on the other side of it. And then the defense mechanisms, it's not a case of, oh gosh, I shouldn't do that anymore, but they'll just naturally fall away because it just won't come up anymore. It's a nice little side benefit of that. And I think that was it for that particular message. But then that led into the audience message, which came And this deck, whoops, where did I put it? It was in this deck for today from the Energy Oracle card deck. And funny enough, this is the card that came up, which again, very green, lots of roses in the background, some butterflies. And the message from this card for the audience and for us, I guess, as well. The thinking woman. So she's standing at a staircase, and the inclination is, again, she's going to be going up the staircase. So again, we're rising, higher vibration, higher awareness, higher consciousness. And that there's a lot of books, and it's kind of like you've brought in the information, you've processed the information, healed things. And so now on the verge of then bringing forth this clarity and knowing once all of that kind of has been completed and done. And there was a little message in here to just be aware of potential misinformation and being aware of your boundaries from outside in. And it's more of this particular card was more about concentrating on your heart's true path and look within to open up your own inner guidance. That's really what the message was all about. And that your own spirit is always your best guide. And so the green I found interesting. So the green was the earth color was your card. And then this one, it's just, and that's unconditional love. And then looking a little bit further at the card myself, while we were preparing for this, the yellow roses over here, as well as like the yellow butterfly. I'm always keyed up with colors. I love, the intention of colors behind things. And it actually tied in with the previous card for this one as well, because they talked about green, which was the unconditional love. They also talked about the energy of yellow, which was to do with self-esteem and trusting your inner voice, calling on that yellow energy to really move you forth to be able to express your inner self. And then you have the yellow roses, and when you look up yellow roses, it also ties back into that message of joy and new beginnings and celebrations. And so kind of like, once you've addressed those difficult emotions and difficult reactions to things, to then celebrate once you get on the other side of that. And I also think it's important too, this came up, we kind of talked about it before we started recording, that last week we were talking about the podcast, just being honest, that I was all like gung-ho and ooh, feeling good and very positive. And then this week, I don't know if it's the dark moon or what's been kind of hitting me this week, but I'm like, oh my gosh, maybe this isn't what we should be doing, or maybe this isn't working. And I was all like doubt. But then coming around, but allowing that emotion of doubt to come up, just like I allowed, because we tend to like, oh, doubt, oh, let's just push that away, don't just talk about it, versus like, ooh, I'm in a good mood and I'm like, oh, I'm feeling confident, right? That we'll talk about, no problem, because it's like great. But the thing is, it's all energy. It's like this, right? And so knowing that you might have doubt, you can sit with it, you can look at it and go, that's interesting. Wonder why that's coming up this week when last week I was just so confident. So you could examine it that way, but just to allow it. And if it has something to say, or if you want to go and do some messaging to do with it and see, or maybe just kind of chalk it up to this dark moon thing and just allow it to pass through, just like all the other energies pass through, but don't go, oh, or not talk about it. It's better to just address it, I think. And kind of like the elephant in the room, it's like it's there, so
you allow it, you honor it, and then you release it.
Exactly.
And then it comes back, and then you honor it, then you allow it, then you release it, then it comes back.
And maybe at that point you might want to ask some further questions, do some further investigating. And
and I mean, there's definitely there are times when doubt is trying to tell you something, so you pay attention. But there are other times where it's really just your part of your programming, your negative programming as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, but when you pay attention, like you were talking about, you
Mm-hmm.
get to know when is it just this like sort of negative programming, and when
Yeah.
is it alarm bells or,
Right.
intuition
Right.
trying to tell you something,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. And maybe give your doubtful self a little hug and say, it's okay. We got this. Like
yeah.
it's old programming or what have
Yeah.
you. It's like, yeah.
Yeah, there's a difference between like, doubt about, whether or not we should do this podcast and doubt about, whether or not you should really quit your job and do something new or different. And,
Mhm.
I mean, and all that is about, where is it coming from, examining it, like, honoring it. Is the doubt from like big decisions, like because you have doubt in yourself, your abilities, or is it because like, oh yeah, there's something that's saying maybe this isn't the best thing for you right now.
Mhm. Mhm.
But I think then it's just, yeah, like you're saying, kind of a matter of getting used to it and then being able to interpret that, because the energies will be different, because like as you said, there's a difference of energy of intuition and doubt, like that sort of
Mhm.
self-nagging doubt.
Yeah.
That one's ickier,
Mhm.
and it goes
Well,
along lines that you've tread before.
yeah. Yeah. And it's almost too, you can almost, I feel now, kind of giggle at it.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's like it comes up and you're like, what? Like, why would that be so different than nothing's really changed from last week? It's like, what's up? So yeah,
Yeah.
just it's almost a more lighthearted look at it, not like, oh my gosh, like it's like, really knocks you down. Then you might want to think about it a little bit more, but it's almost kind of a lighter version of the same emotion, but you're kind of like, oh, that's like, yeah,
Yeah.
just question it. It's like, oh, hi, what are you doing here? Kind of thing, but not a big, unless it
Yeah.
feels like it's a big thing, and then maybe more investigations required. But
Yeah. It's also why using cards and stuff is kind of cool, because it helps to reflect yourself back to you.
mhm.
And so then maybe it's a way to kind of get a little insight from a different angle. It's also why working with somebody else
Mhm.
in these modalities, even though we do our own work on ourselves, working with somebody else helps with that as well. Because like a lot of times, especially over the past few weeks, I've been doing a lot of things, and sometimes I'd be like, I think I might be nuts. I think, uh, is this really true? Can I really trust my muscle testing about this? This seems nuts. So was having a lot of doubt in myself, and a lot of it was in this processing of information and things that were coming up that I really were totally out of left field. But it was like, even though I knew, I was like, okay, well, it's probably not something I programmed myself for. It's probably true. I still
Mhm.
had that doubt. So I asked a friend of ours who does body code, because I was doing body code work. I was like, well,
Mhm.
you go and do surrogation for me and test these things to make sure I'm not crazy. And of course she tested. She's like, you're not crazy. Um,
Very good.
these are coming up like you said. And so it's just like one of those things where you're just kind of like, I don't know. It's all about this. It's a weird process of
Mhm.
trust and doubt and trust and checking and what are these blind sides and da da da. I feel like I'm getting off topic a little bit here, but at the same time, since we're just talking about doubt, I think that's really key, because then sometimes like you are working with somebody else and they're reflecting back to you the things that you have your own blind spots to
Mhm.
in
Mhm.
yourself.
Mhm.
And that's
Well,
what
it's important, I think, when you get to that point where you're not quite sure, working with someone else is a great idea, because you also don't know what you don't know. So you
yeah.
might think, oh, I got this, whatever, but there could be something else you're totally not seeing because
Mhm.
you don't know what we don't know.
Yeah.
So that's why it is really good to have somebody else that maybe bring some things up that either you haven't thought about or you just don't see because you're
Yeah.
too convinced. Yeah.
True. And there's a lot of things that came up when we were talking, where it seems to make a lot of sense too with the earth, the idea of the earth and this being our home. Because what are we doing in our healing work? We're healing ourselves, right? But part of that too is we are raising our own vibration. Primarily, it's part of our own soul journey, the work we're doing for ourselves. But because of that, we have impact on the people around us,
mm-hmm.
and the people we work with. And the higher everyone's vibrational energy and consciousness goes to, then the more care for the earth becomes a priority for people, I feel like. And we've talked about that before too. So basically, because we are this one giant ecosystem, we're really one organism, if you think about it.
Yeah.
So having these exchanges, like trashing the earth, is basically the same as just eating McDonald's for every meal, you know, kind of.
Yeah.
And then I get sued by McDonald's. Thankfully, I have no money. But this idea is, so I'm just kind of going off on this little tangent here, but caring for ourselves is caring for the earth, basically, is kind of where I was getting to that. Because the more we're caring for ourselves, the more likely we are to be paying attention to other things. And I understand a lot of people aren't at this level when you're in survival mode, or you only have a certain amount of money, and like all of your efforts are going into paying bills and feeding your family and stuff like that. You know, maybe environmentalism isn't on the top of your list, right? But I also believe as we all raise in consciousness, that will also be less and less, because we'll be taking care of people. You know, we'll be taking care of our communities better, so less people are actually in survival mode. This gets into a whole another huge conversation loop, I'm sure, but it's all connected though.
Well, that's the thing. It is all connected. And I think I just think again, the more any of us can be more positive and raise the vibration more and more, that it does then help bring everything up, which will then trickle down and then, like you said, enable people who now who aren't in that kind of mindset will then have the space, just because it will be there. The space will be created whereby, and also not only just that, but if you think too, if there's enough more conscious people in businesses that then, you know, bring forth things that then enable us to be more earth responsible, right? Like it's just kind of like a whole domino effect.
Yeah.
Like if what you buy doesn't come wrapped in plastic, and then in more plastic, and then in some styrofoam, and then in a box, and then wrap the box in plastic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if there's just kind of a whole different mindset, then it won't be a case of you need to figure that out. It will kind of come down the pipes that way, right? That everything kind of shifts and it becomes easier and easier. So I just think it's, again, going back to all of the messages today, is to really appreciate Mother Earth, to bring as much positive energy and to kind of intermingle with her energy and bring our joy in the moment and our celebration of her and the gifts all around us that she gives, between the positive energies of the trees, listening to the frequencies of the bird singing. That's, you know, scientifically proven to like mellow us down, just listening to bird sounds. So bringing your awareness to the different bird sounds around you, you know, that again, you don't need to be in a forest. You can just open the window and just listen, because even in cities, there's birds all around. So yeah, just concentrating, instead of always like having such a, oh my gosh, we're wrecking it, we're burning things, we're like, you know, all the negative, just try really hard to celebrate the good things, the bigger things that are all out there, because we tend to, again, not necessarily misinformation, but maybe like too much negative information, where there is like so much They like to promo the bad stuff of like, the oceans are killing everything, or we're killing everything in the oceans. But then not hearing the really good stories of reforestation, and people have taken, sandy whatever and made it into this beautiful green space again because of technologies and things that they're implementing. And so the news and things tend to navigate us over into all the negative destruction. But there is also another side to that force of like the good and what they're trying to promote. And we just don't hear about that as much. So we can bring as much positivity as we can. That's good for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. This whole idea, I mean, that really runs through everything we talk about. It's just that we're all connected, everything that we do has an impact, on ourselves, on the people around us, on our planet. And, definitely what's we are doing as a collective is having an impact on the planet. I saw a quick blurb that I did not click onto because I didn't want to get depressed before the podcast. I probably should have, though, because it was about a giant glacier, a doomsday glacier melting.
Oh, no.
And it was like, these cities are in danger, and of course you'd have to click through and subscribe to whatever thing, right. You can find it online, whatever. But I just saw that, and it's this first moment, I was like, well, that's kind of a bummer. But I mean, when we knew it was coming, we've been knowing that's coming. This is coming. It's one of the reasons I like the house that I live in right now, because it's above sea level significantly.
That is a good thing. That is definitely a good thing. Yep. Yep.
Like we may soon have oceanfront property. You never know.
Yeah. Yeah, be careful what you wish for. Look at
right?
The ocean is just 2-minute walk away.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is something that could have been avoided. Mm-hmm. And easily avoided had we done little steps over the past 20, 30, 40 years. It wouldn't have taken a huge amount for us to like not be where we are right now with climate change. So and I feel like you can take that example and apply it to almost anything in your life. It's like people who don't take care of themselves physically, and then they get sick, get cancer or some other, and then there is the flip of that, of people who seemingly are, completely healthy and doing all the right things, and then they have a stroke and die, or have some other horrible disease or cancer or something like that. Mm-hmm. But then you got to wonder, is the things that are causing the issue systemic, or is it, are the things that create disease and create dis-ease, or is it just so prevalent, like you can't escape it? I'm going down a dark road. Maybe
dark moon, dark road.
I know. I don't know. Maybe I should cut this part out. Because I don't know. Because we are all connected. That's the thing. Mm-hmm. We are all connected, and everything that we do matters. But at the same time, you don't have to be perfect. You just need to do the best you can. Mm-hmm. And I feel like if we had been doing the best we could, as a society, things would be a lot different. Mm-hmm. These days. If we thought more about ourselves as being connected in a oneness, as opposed to everyone being an individual with no connection, or looking at nature as a mechanistic thing, mm-hmm. with the body as machine. If we looked at everything as more holistic and connected, we would have as a society, that I feel like everything would be so much more different.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's such a disconnect. Between things, that it's led to not great things.
Yeah.
But every day is a new day.
Every day is a new day.
Day is a new day. Yeah. And I still believe that technology and better things are to come to push things in a more positive light, as opposed to
I think so. I mean, we're going to get there. I just think there might be some dark days ahead.
It's just messy. Some messy bits. Some messy bits.
Yeah, I think people eventually will get there. And we as a society will eventually get there. When? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I'm going to go on a little bit of a tangent because I think we have a little bit more time. But I've been having discussions with the family to do with AI lately. And kind of like, how does it make sense if AI takes over so many different jobs? And I just literally at the mall yesterday, there was I don't even know what you want to say, an AI coffee shop. It was like a kiosk in the middle of the mall that was a coffee thing that you placed your order, but it was all robotically operated. So there were no baristas. And I can't even remember what the heck it was called, but that was what it was. So I'm like, gosh, when you really think of how many things can and maybe will be replaced by machines that can do things. But then, the question then remains, okay, so what do all the people do that no longer have jobs? And my question was, how does that work in a society that's based on, people working, paying taxes? So then you have taxes to build roads. And so now if nobody's work or to buy things to keep the economy going, well, if people aren't making money and they can't contribute to the economy, then those businesses would then go out of business. Like, how does that work? Like as a down the line. And that's when someone said to me, well, basically what they would do is they would tax the companies that have the robots, that they would tax the robots work. Like, so they're charging the company and that's how the taxes would come in. But I said, yeah, but then that's still, and then it would be like universal pay or whatever. Like everybody would get an X number of dollars, right? People that aren't working, because I mean, there just wouldn't be the jobs. And then I said, yeah, but then you also have the problem of people not having a purpose. Like, it's great when you have some leisure time. And if you're the type of person that likes to learn things or likes to do things like gardening or hobbies or whatever, great. But not everybody's of that kind of frame of mind and need work and like work and want to be doing things like that. So it's just talking about, the earth and where we're going and the being in that survivalist kind of mentality, that having that come about would alleviate the survivor component, but then would open up the maybe self-discovery connectedness kind of thing. It's kind of like back in the day when we didn't have all the conveniences that we have. Your purpose was to make sure you had wood for the fire and you had the basics of life, right? But they involve time, like cooking, for example, too, right? Making your own food takes time. It takes a lot of time. I mean, my grandmother used to do all homemade cooking at home and she'd have to start prepping dinner at like noon. That was how it was a day, like through the thing. If you're going to make pies from scratch, you're going to make jams from scratch, you're going to whatever. But at the same time, you kind of feel like you're contributing because you're providing for the family, you're making a loving, nutritious meal that's feeding everybody. And, it's kind of part and parcel that we just don't have that today because it's a busy mom and kids and school and meetings and things. Where the heck do you even fit in a home cooked meal? You're like grabbing something frozen. I mean, maybe you're really good, but it's a lot of the times, and I've been there, that it's a lot easier to just do takeout if you can manage it, because that's just all you have the time for. But maybe the AI in a positive thing would enable more, again, self-discovery of then figuring out connectedness to things, because you'd actually have the time to think of things and where things are all connected, just because now we're so disconnected from where things come from, and to think of where things are coming from the groceries, and you have to go with maybe what's the cheapest alternative, which might not be the best for the planet, or because it's coming from far away, or it's not seasonal. And for our bodies and stuff, maybe we should be eating seasonally as opposed, and things that are more local as opposed to things that are coming from far away, which requires more fuel and requires more, you know, I don't know. Anyway, these are all just deep thoughts that I've had this week. Again, maybe it's that dark moon thing of stuff, but in a positive light, to then maybe have people have more time for more real planetary purpose of like self-discovery and higher things, as opposed to just, I don't know.
Yeah, it's basically when we get to the level of Star Trek society, because
Yeah.
that's the premise of Star Trek, right? Is that,
Right.
they don't have money. Everybody just does what they feel compelled to. But at the same time, Cisco's dad had a restaurant where he
Mhm.
cooked, so there's still a guy having a coffee shop.
Right. You just wouldn't have the pressure of making the business
Right.
work or high pressure sales to get people to do your thing or buy your thing. You'd be able to like make things like Etsy people do just for the point of
Right.
making it because that's your creative.
Yeah, being an artist or whatever. And they've done studies about, and they've done quite a few of, I think, in California, of people who have a guaranteed income,
Mhm.
what they do then if it relaxes their ability to just gets them kind of out of survival mode
Mhm.
100%. And they don't just sit around and watch TV. They, most people, I'm not saying all people, there'll always be the people who, that are at the ends,
Mhm.
um, but they did things like they, you know, saved, or they started to further their education, or they looked at
Mhm.
started to look for other jobs that paid more. They
Mhm.
actually had the time to look for other jobs, or to
Right.
actually had the time to do things to increase their productivity or their skills so they can get a better job that would pay them
Mhm.
more. So, I mean, there's a lot of really great reasons for looking at us as a society as a whole and taking care of everybody,
Mhm.
because a lot of the things that they're doing now, like the cuts that they're trying to make, they like, I'm just thinking of like the research dollars that they're cutting in universities now, because they're trying to do some stupid thing with budgets so they can give rich people more tax money back or whatever. And they're making all these ridiculous cuts. But for every dollar is invested in research of higher education, the economy gets $3 back.
Wow.
So it's something like that. Those aren't the exact numbers,
Mhm. Mhm.
but
But there is
basically,
payback, right?
right. So right now, what they're doing, because their mentality is so divisive and so about, well, this is my money, I should get it back. And these rich people made this money, they shouldn't have to pay taxes to support poor people, whatever.
Mhm.
All of that mentality is basically the same thing as cutting off your nose to spite your face.
Mhm.
You don't invest the dollar into the research, that's $2 that is lost,
Mhm.
you know.
Mhm.
So, but if you invest the money, if you do these programs that actually help poor people,
Mhm.
are the people at the lower ends of society. Yeah, of course, there's always going to be people who are just like, sitting around sucking off the government teat or whatever. But then there's
Mhm.
other people, most of the people are going to do what they can to better their circumstances,
Mhm. Mhm.
to give so that they have more. And then as you raise everybody up, then things can happen like, oh, well, maybe I actually should learn how to recycle properly now that I have this. I'm not worried about feeding my family.
Mhm. Mhm.
Maybe instead of like, I will now uh, think about the future and about the things that are coming along for my children and my grandchildren down the road, because I'm
Mhm.
not in constant survival moment at this time.
Panicking. Yeah.
Yeah, I can actually think about how my actions affect generations down the road. And because other people have cared for me, I will then
Mhm.
look beyond myself and think about how my actions affect my community, about my family, the planet,
Yeah.
so to speak. I think that's kind of where the benefit of that,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah. The shift. The shift.
Yeah, that's the shift. And I think it'll happen. We'll get to Star Trek at some point.
Mhm. Mhm.
Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, maybe not in the next 4 years, certainly.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
I think eventually we'll get there. Will we be alive to see that? Maybe
I say
these
yes.
bodies.
No.
I don't know. I mean, that would be nice.
Yeah.
It would be nice if it happened within the lifetime of this incarnation.
Yeah. So when we're old in our rocking chair, back in our day,
when we had a podcast,
people were throwing out their garbage. yeah.
Now get off my launch.
Oh gosh. Yeah. Let's hope we're able to say that. Back in our day, I couldn't believe what people used to do. Yeah.
Yeah, it's basically the question is, am I going to be on my porch in a rocking chair, with a bowl of fruit, welcoming people, as they walk by and being all nice and everything's happy because everybody's happy? Or am I going to be on my porch on my rocking chair with a shotgun and a bottle of gin?
I'm going to go for option 1.
Yeah, that would be the more pleasant option.
Yes. A very pretty porch, lots of flowers around, lots of big trees, and lots of happy people. Yeah.
This is how the futures can diverge. Angela on the porch with a shotgun, Angela on the porch with flowers and fruit. Being nice to everybody.
Yeah.
We'll see. I am American, so we'll see. Not that I've ever shot a shotgun.
No, like I said, I'm going for option 1. Nice flowery porch. Well, on that note, thank you, Mother Earth, for supporting us as well as you have.
And we're sorry.
Despite ourselves, and we apologize.
Some of us are sorry.
Yeah. We'll figure it out for sure.
One hopes.
Yeah.
There is no planet B, as they like to say.
Yeah, exactly.
Despite what certain people think.
Yeah.
Mars is now planet B.
Oh.
Mars is a red wasteland of a rock.
Yeah. I'm going to say thanks, but no thanks. Yeah. I'll stay here. Thank you.
You know what I also think, I know this is our famous, we're ending this podcast, but wait a second. What I find is so funny is all the experiments they do about people being in space and how all those experiments seem to say, we really shouldn't be in space. We're supposed to be on the planet where we grew up, where we evolved and stuff. Yet they're still and let's go to Mars.
Yeah.
Which is, I love science fiction, but this planet right here, right now, we need to focus on this planet.
Yes. Yeah. Let's make this all nice. And then if they still want to go traveling and developing, then that's fine too. Just like in Star Trek, that they can go off and discover new. But this should still be good. Back home should still be good.
Yeah. Let's make it the paradise that it is. Let's actualize the Earth as the paradise that it really, really is. Yeah. So many places are still like that. It's really the places where we're at that it's causing problems. And then causing problems for the nice places. So anyway, blah, blah, blah.
Just happy thoughts. Happy thoughts.
Happy thoughts. So thank you. We'll end this on this beautiful happy thoughts for the planet.
Happy thoughts. Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us. Please like and subscribe below. And this has been Angela. I'm at reikilife.com.
And Kim at keycranio.com.
And you have a great evening and a great day and all this other stuff until we meet again.
Exactly. See you next time. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks for watching Kim and Angela talk. Please like and subscribe below. To book sessions with Kim, visit keycranio.com. To book sessions with Angela, visit thisreikilife.com. Thank you.